Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the very first UKCCF podcast. We're lining up a series of guest speakers to presenters to come in and talk around their experiences within the contact centre customer service space and to give some insight into how their customers are thinking and what trends are and how things are going in this sector at the moment. My partner in crime for these interviews is going to be Chris D'Souza. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Trevor. How are you? Great to be
Very
on
well,
the first podcast.
Great. Thank you for joining us. And our first victim, interviewee today is Greg Thomas, who's the Managing Director of Contact One and Talk One. Obviously, we're looking forward to having a chat with him. Welcome, Greg.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Looking forward to the next 30 minutes. Great insight, I hope. So I think with that, well, let's get this session going. And Chris, I think you have your first question.
Yes. So, Greg, obviously we follow the trends within the contact centre customer experience world quite closely. And if you look at a lot of reports that have come out, certainly over the last 2 or 3 months, there's a lot of statistics that say that customer experience is on an all-time high. Do you think that's really the case, or do you think that the expectations have changed from our customers, that the bar has reduced somewhat?
Oh, tricky one to start with, isn't it? Thank you for that. Has the bar? I think consumers, their expectations are, I think, I wouldn't say extreme, but they're far higher in what they want from the customer experience, and I think that stems from the I want it now. I expect an immediate response. So I think the expectation from the consumer is very high. I did some work recently as well, where I actually I managed to sit down with some owners of some businesses, specifically in the travel insurance sector, and I asked the loaded question. How important is customer service to your business? And I suppose very much an obvious question, but I then sort of put in there, considering the balance of closing business, renewal of business, and new business. How does it scale? How does that work together? And he came back with an immediate response that the customer experience and the customer service that they provide is equal to winning new business. It's so important to their business. Without it, I think he quoted, without it, they wouldn't exist. So I suppose what I'm saying is customer service, I suppose, is really important from the consumer's perspective, and I suppose the small sample of business owners that I spoke to, and I think it's still very much in the spotlight. Have I waffled enough?
No, I think that's great. Because obviously we're told that consumers are really quite happy to self-serve, and that's obviously the trends that we're seeing in the industry is AI, bots, and all that good stuff. But when I talk to friends and family, I struggle to find anyone who seems satisfied with the current deployment of robotics, AI, etc. Within the contact center industry. So obviously there's this whole topic of deflection of calls. Yep. And I kind of wonder sometimes, Greg, what message that really sends to customers, and actually also internally, we're setting out as a strategy to deflect our customers.
Yeah, quite dangerous when people talk about that. I mean, I've got very recently had a I actually got, sorry, there's quite a few experiences, so I'll sort of try and replay some of the customer experiences to help answer some of those things. And what I'm trying to do today is just give you, I'm very lucky. I go out and talk to my customers as much as I can, and I try and get feedback. I mean, I noticed one huge, I suppose, online conveyance or a house seller, they decided to take their telephone number off their website, which I thought was a very bold move, considering I think moving house is one of the most stressful things you can do, apart from, I think, getting married and obviously then not getting married.
Not sure which order that's supposed to be in, but anyway.
Yes, yeah. Lucky I haven't experienced that, the latter. But the for me, that's sort of like, that's quite scary in the fact that they're deflecting straight away. So I find that quite negative from that perspective. It's always interesting as well when you get certain vendors that are just selling their product, which is, it might just be one source of media within the whole of the contact center world. I'm talking about multimedia. They might just sell chat, they might just do email, and they're all they're all channels that work, and they're all proven, and there's stats everywhere. But for me, it has to be a blended experience. I worked on a project which I thought was rather good. The one, it was another holiday company, actually, not the same one I spoke to. They decided that they were going to push people down the web chat as much as they could, but what they found was very quickly that 20% didn't. It was the magic number. It always is 80-20. I mean, it was probably 19.4 or something, but it was the 80-20. Yeah, but they found that every time someone engaged in a web chat with them, it didn't matter what they did, 20% of those calls needed, 20% of those interactions turned out to be a phone call. And so what we did quite a cool solution. We worked with their CRM and we worked with their operational systems to marry up the chat history, the chat conversation, and pass it to an agent that was experienced, and to make the outbound call and connect. And they got some fantastic customer feedback. Some of the CSAT they got was, what a wonderful experience. So for me, it's proven that, it's an overused term. It's horses for courses. Use the correct media to talk to your customers. Be wary of call deflection. Be very wary of that, because it doesn't work. If you decide to make an arbitrary decision, the knock-on effect is tremendous.
Yeah,
I think you've also got to look at two things. Firstly, what channels are right for the customer to engage with that business, but also what channels are right for the business to offer. Yeah. Some of our members and organizations I deal with, they say, oh, we must have web chat, we must have social media, we must have everything. And then when they're asked, well, why? It's, well, everyone else is doing it. Well, just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean it's right for your business. I mean, I know a couple of London boroughs, for example, they have deliberately taken a phone number off the website for parking tickets. And the reason being, they were getting so much abuse down the phone, they were losing advisors. They said, right, if anyone wants to engage with us regarding this particular topic, they must email us or have a web chat, and that's it. So it was right for the business to take that number off. But obviously frustrating for the customer.
I think but that's a really interesting point, Trevor, because what I think we have to recognise that the contact centre is often the symptom of issues elsewhere within the organisation, process, the business. Yeah. So what they're doing in that situation, or what it occurs to me there, is that they're getting abuse. So what we'll do is we'll just stop the abuse by turning the phone number off. But what about why they're getting abuse? What's the reason? Is it something that they're doing that causes that? Obviously we can't solve that in this conversation, but it's the root cause that's driving the call. Let's deal with that rather than the symptoms that you get at the end of the day. Yeah.
I mean, I remember one company as well. I mean, I'm probably going off a bit of a tangent, but I think it's sort of a similar thing. But they were saying that the social media channels, they found it was really good in some respects. They were a bit swamped, but they found it interesting, the fact that they'd know if their payment gateway was down instantly, because the social media channel went nuts saying, I can't buy stuff from this company, it's driving me mad. Have you got the same problem? Do you know how else to pay? And they were sort of bemused, the people handling their social media, like, have we got a problem with our payment provider? And then and so it was a fantastic. So I'm not, it's voice only. I'm pro all channels, because I could see the benefit. I think it really is it's got to be blended. I think you start deflecting one channel away because you don't like it. I mean, I suppose the parking thing is probably quite sensible in some respects, but people are going to ring up and I suppose want for a bit of rant and rave, aren't they? And just let loose. You don't need that. You're not an agony, aren't you? Pay your bill.
Yeah, exactly. And it was affecting the staff. And some were leaving, and some said, "I just don't want to work on that line anymore." So I think in that case they took the right decision.
Yeah.
Because they're going to phone up and rant and rave, even though they probably deserve the ticket. They parked on a double yellow line or blocked an entrance, and they deserve it. They're not going to have a go at the traffic warden because that person's gone, but they're going to phone up the contact centre and rant and rave at them.
It's easier to have a go at someone you don't know, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Face to face is very difficult.
Yeah.
So thinking about that, and also thinking about agents, we're apparently in the new normal right now. So we had a pandemic, which I think really hasn't really gone away, but we're operating in a different way. So we sent people home to work remotely at very short notice. Under normal circumstances, I would imagine we'd have had long process and change boards, etc., to go ahead and do that. But we literally gave people computers and said go home and work from home. So we invaded their space and we changed the landscape overnight. And then I think almost straight away people started saying this is the new normal, hybrid working for the contact center. That's what we're going to do. Do you think that's realistic and that's sustainable as a model going forward?
I think very much so. Yes, you did make me laugh actually with your what you said, because we were doing just before the pandemic. We were with a big call center, 200 seats, call center. Well, sorry, nearly 300 over 3 sites. Sorry, and they were trialing working from home, and it was really slow. It was like 5 people. Okay, let's try it for 2 days, and then the pandemic came, and it was like everyone was gone. It was just literally out the doors. So, and we did it that way. So it was quite interesting. Hybrid working, working from home. I think I think it's worked very well in some respects. I think there's a whole list, or I suppose like a wagon wheel of subjects on it, from people that need to, people, mental health, well-being, being isolated on your own, needing to see people occasionally, to people that are self-starters that people aren't. They need management, because we're all different. And then there's things like the technology barriers that people are, literally working on a very small bandwidth, and they're trying to do Zoom calls and everything at the same time, and wondering why they've got issues, because the connectivity, the physicality of the technology can't help them. They're in the wrong place. And it's fascinating. I mean, the systems, I mean, the cloud-based systems, if the connectivity is well served, then there's no reason why you can't work from home. I mean, the systems, I suppose, where I think we're quite lucky as a vendor, is that our platform's quite intuitive, and I think that's a big thing as well, because you're not there. You can't train people. You can't, like a supervisor can go, he's got a team of 10 people in an office, can go and help, someone straight away, like, okay, I can see what you're doing, or someone's new. So it's testing management, it's testing training, it's testing systems to be simple and easy to use. So, but on the whole, I think it's what we found with our customers, it's been relatively, I'd say 80% plus successful for pretty much all their agents, if not more.
I mean, we've actually got one member who's embraced home working. They've actually closed down their 250 seat contact center. Everybody now works from home, and they actually recruit virtually. They train virtually, and the staff work virtually, and they are literally all over the country. So the managers have got some of their people they've never actually met face to face. They do all these Zoom sessions to update them as to what's happening in the business, and what's going on. But they've got people they've never actually met face to face, and it works. It really does.
I suppose, but there's a key there as well, isn't there, Trevor? Because it's all about the execution. It's about how you deploy that as a solution. Obviously what that business has done has said, right, well, we're operating differently. We need to operate differently across everything we do, rather than just, oh, we've got some agents working from home. We've got to keep them engaged. We've got to, with the challenges of things like attrition will still exist, but we've got to look and manage that differently, knowledge and all that good stuff.
Yeah. They've been doing it a number of years as well, so they've learned by their mistakes, but they've got it right now. They're doing a great job.
Very good. And one of the other questions I had, which is going off on a slightly different track, but we as contact center folk, from an operational perspective, I'll hold my hand up. And I've been doing it for far too long. The thing that we were always held to account by was this 80-20 rule, and Greg, you mentioned it earlier. You will struggle nowadays to find any contact center, something that I've called recently, that you get answered in under 20 seconds. It's into the minutes, if not hours, in a lot of cases. Do you think taking an 80-20 rule as one metric, but we've got some other historic metrics, things like average speed of answer, things like call durations and things like that. Do you think now we're due a new set of metrics within the contact center, a new way of measuring success?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the I don't know, it's the gold measurement, but first call resolution should, is what we all strive for, which would then drive all the other metrics. I mean, how many times have you called a call center where they've sort of, I don't know, unconsciously deployed call deflection, as I call it, where you ring up and it says, oh, if you've got your account number, put it in now, and you go, oh, okay, so you put it in, and then they do his date of birth, and then they go, okay, well, thank you for that. We'll route you through to an agent. Then you sit in the queue for 20 minutes, and then you hit an agent, and it's, can I have your account number, please?
Yeah.
Can I? And you're like, well, why did you do that? And it was just to keep me occupied. I mean, if they're going to do that, they might as well give me a puzzle to do. I didn't get it. For me, I mean, wasted effort. It's like I've got all the information together. I've turned up, and then you've gone, nah, don't need that. And I find that frustrating. So I think more companies can do a lot more with simple stuff. I mean, how many small insurance companies or medium insurance companies do you call where they don't give you an option to put your account number in so you can chase your claim? Because it's easy, text to speech is easy. They can get a report back saying what's happened with the status, so they could read out to you, your claim is still being assessed by an assessor. Please call back in 3 days because they haven't got around to it. That would get rid of that call. That would give me what I'm looking for as an individual. But no, you're going to queue for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes for someone to go, sorry, we're not ready for you. I mean, that's just an example, but I think we should look to get more out of the technology we've got lying around, get it to work better to help with what you're talking about.
Well, it's quite funny you say that. A lot of contact center managers I talk to, they say to me, look, we've got this piece of kit that does this, but we're only using 10% of it. Yeah. We've got all this spare capacity that we haven't got configured correctly to help us. And you sort of sit there thinking, well, why don't you do something about it? Because you reckon you've got this spare capacity, utilize it to help your customers and make the experience more enjoyable, so you don't get someone phoning up who's happy and bubbly after waiting 20 minutes on the phone, turns out to be an upset customer, which has a knock-on effect for the advisor to get a grumpy customer as opposed to a happy customer. So yeah, that's been said a lot.
I've always been fascinated by some of the metrics that I was held to account by, and I think both of you are so right that we need to think about that overall experience, the people that are paying our wages. And I always remember that in probably every contact center I've worked at, but some more than others, you'd walk in the morning and you'd have this debrief with the C-suite almost to say, well, what was our service level yesterday? And nobody's ever asked, how were our customers? What was the quality like? How many people were happy yesterday? Just did we answer the call quickly enough? Which I think is so upside down as a concept.
Yes. One quick thing I'll say on that is the amount of sessions I've run where I've actually posed a question to the audience saying, how many of you as contact center customer services managers have actually invested the time to phone up your own contact centre to see what the experience is like and what the journey has been like. How easy has it been for you to get a problem resolved? And very few hands actually go up in a room of, say, 20 odd people. Probably one, possibly two hands will actually say, I've done that.
I would certainly have put my hand up, Trevor, even if I hadn't.
You're a politician,
That's
then,
amazing.
Mr. D'Souza. Politician, I like that. No, I think you're bang on there, Trevor, because when I see quite a lot of small to medium enterprises, a lot of growing businesses, and we get sort of, I suppose I get sort of networked in to meet these people, and we talk to them, and the first thing I talk about is the call flow, and they start sort of pausing. They're going, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, how do you want new customers to contact you? Say they've got your number off the website. What are you expecting them to get? What's their experience?" And genuinely, they're so busy with their job, so busy doing the growth of the business, I wouldn't say firefighting, but just doing their work. They sit there and go, "Wow, okay." And I said, "So what about existing customers then?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean now." And sometimes we just need to sort of go back to basics, or what's the experience like? What do they feel? I often say as well, they all get a bit shocked. Go, "So what do you do when they're closed?" And they go, "What do you mean?" I say, "Well, what do you do when you're closed? What do you want to do? Do you want to do a message to say, look, we're really, office is now shut. We'd love to talk to you. Do you want to go to a message? Do you want to go out of hours, or just want to kill it?" And it's like, "Oh, we've not thought about that." So people got to, there's so much going on in their world, just to try and, I don't know, put a nail in one of their feet so they go around.
But if you play that right the way back to the start of the conversation, where you spoke to some folks, and I'm sure and arguably their contact center may be better than some of the others that we might be alluding to, but they said customer first. That's the most important thing. But then that delivery of customer first appears in a lot of cases to be somewhat lacking. And I think the other thing which I think is quite interesting is when you look at that sort of process, customer journey map, what the leaders think happens within their operation is often very different to what actually happens, because what we're great at in the contact center world is workarounds, aren't we? So we this doesn't quite work, and rather than dealing with that thing, we create the workarounds, and that's how the business operates. And depending on how long it was since someone last looked at the processes, those workarounds have organically grown. So the leaders think this is what we're doing, and actually there's something else going on in the business which has an impact, and I think that influences partially why we get this disconnect in service.
Yeah, things like messaging, isn't it? And it's silly stuff of when they're going to play a Q-Buster type prompt, who they give that to. They want it to sales calls because they want to capture them and they don't want to upset them, or do they do it to customer service? It'd be interesting to see a stat, wouldn't it, Chris, of how many companies offer Q-Buster for customer service as opposed to new sales. That'd be quite fascinating.
It's even down to the music on hold. You phone up some companies and the music on hold is so dull and boring, and do I really want to listen to this for the next 10 minutes? No, I'm off. So
that's a full deflection strategy, Trevor. You've walked into it.
But I think we have actually, just to sort of, as we come close towards our half hour, I think we've invented something during this call, because what Greg mentioned is us having games while you're waiting on hold. I think that's probably the best idea, and I'm going to patent that before any of you two do.
Oh, no, you're not. It's been recorded, Chris, so you'll have to have recorded.
Oh dear. Okay, well, in that case, then that brings our very first podcast to an end. I'd like to thank Chris for co-hosting today. Thank you very much indeed, and looking forward to doing more with you in the coming weeks. And above all, Greg, thank you so much. It's been great fun asking you the questions and get some great answers. And thank you for sparing the time to join us today. And we look forward to seeing you at a later date.
No, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. It's good to see you guys, and I have found it very interesting, actually. making me think about, you know, the meetings I've had with my customers. I always find it interesting. So thanks for the opportunity. See you
No,
soon.
thank you.
Greg.